Okay, Zach. So it's really good to see you again.
Good to see you too.
Been a while.
Mhm.
Um, so you're you're calling asking about mindfulness.
Mhm.
Okay. As you possibly remember, I generally do not translate the Pali word sati into mindfulness. That mindfulness seems to be a word that's crept into the English language from who knows where. That in fact, the only time that I've ever heard of mindfulness is in regard to the teachings of the Buddha. It's almost like they had to make some words up in English in order to describe the Pali, and that the word mindfulness actually doesn't quite fit. And because it doesn't quite fit, it doesn't quite have the power of the sati. That in fact mindfulness has more of the quality of investigation than it does this waking up quality. So let's talk about sati then, um, in the regard that if we don't have sati, if we don't have memory, then we can't do the skill that we do have. It's actually quite possible. It happens to me on a regular basis, and an example then would be that after you have a conversation with someone, then later you recall or recollect and says, "I should have said this,
Mm.
but I didn't." Why I didn't say it? Because I didn't remember it. But now I remember it later. Okay, so the sati has the quality of remembering, but it's a different kind of quality than just recollecting the past. Basically, it's recollecting the present moment instead. Instead of remember when, it's remember now. We use the quality of waking up, just like we've been asleep in the bed and we wake up in the morning. How do we know that we're awake now? When you do wake up, how do you know?
Yeah, I suppose there's awareness and
Of,
the waking state, not being asleep.
okay, all right. So you basically then become aware of the body. You become aware of the bed. You become aware of the surroundings. You become aware of the pillow. Maybe you open your eyes. Okay. So this quality of waking up in the morning has two qualities to it. Waking up in this way is not the same as getting up.
Mm.
Okay, and we want to have the sati is the both sides of it, not just waking up, but getting up also. It's kind of got an energy like bounding out of the bed or bounding out of the past or the sleep or the daydreams or night dreams that we've been having and waking right up.
Mm.
Okay, here's an example of that. 6 a.m. on the third day of boot camp. Exactly five minutes to 6 a.m. and the DI comes in with his baton and he starts beating on things, making as much racket as he can. All right. And everyone who is in that barracks, in that boot camp, what do? Do they roll over and go back to sleep when they hear that baton? Oh no, they hit the deck. They jump out of bed, right? Stand at attention, immediately up and awake. So this is the quality that we're going to be developing in sati is to wake up in a really, really big way. to really be here now, to really wake up out of our past. And then the rest of the Eightfold Noble Path is possible. But we have to wake up. We have to be in the here now. We have to be, to come into the present. We literally have to jump out of that rack when that baton starts beating the lockers.
For me, that brings up a sense of danger or a sense of urgency. Like if you have the drill sergeant who comes in and is banging on things, it makes me think about like, you know, the threat of it. If you don't, there's consequences to not having that sharpness of light.
Exactly so. That in fact it is dangerous. The reason why people do have an undesirable life, a confused, dissatisfying life, is because they don't wake up to the dangers of dukkha. That in fact, that waking up process is the waking up to check things out. What's the dukkha? So the first thing we do is that we wake up, we take a look. Okay, that racket did come from the drill sergeant. Right? So that's the way, and yes, it does, because in fact the Eightfold Noble Path is part of the Four Noble Truths. And the first item on that list, the first truth, is that dukkha, dissatisfaction, does exist. Dangers do exist. Let's wake up so that we can handle them rather than having the dangerous things turn into disasters. So we want to catch them while they're dangerous so that we can do something about it. So remember to wake up, to take a look, and then to make a change, to do something about it. That, I mean, if you did wake up and you did see the danger and you still didn't do anything about it, that's almost the same as not seeing it at all. That, in fact, this is what a lot of the practice of meditation winds up being in Western style, is to wake up, to take a look, and to suffer on. Note it well and suffer hard. And so the real teaching is this issue of the reason that we're practicing Sati, to wake up, to over and over, to wake up, take a look, to wake up and see what's going on, because that now gives us an option for the first time in our lives, is that with this, we can see that we can make a change. If we don't wake up, we can't change.
Right. We just repeat same patterns again and again on autopilot or
exactly, which is quite dangerous. The plane is heading right into the side of a mountain on automatic pilot. The captain needs to wake up and take control of that plane. It's dangerous to stay asleep. So that's the reason that I would actually mention that drill sergeant, is because, yes, things are dangerous. But in fact, you already know that, or you wouldn't have called me today. That's the reason that we want to wake up, is because there might be some danger. Let's go take a look. So once we make a look, that means that now we can look with discernment if we're wise. So the looking This is actually an important thing because the people in the West, they hear the word view, like right noble view, and they hear it in the same way as a viewpoint or a personality view. And the reality is that this is actually a different word. It's a verb that we have views, we have ideas, we have concepts, we have beliefs and worldviews. Okay, this is the kind of view that's a noun. But we're looking at it from a verb, looking. Looking is not the same thing as having a view. That in fact people have views because they did some looking, but not enough and not now. They're just holding on to a previous view, a concept. But what we need to do is to wake up and actually look at what's going on. Or another way of saying it is get back in touch with the reality of the moment. Be here now. Look at what's going on. What's up, Doc? What's happening? So this quality of looking has also the quality of remembering to look. And we develop this as a skill, a twin set of skills. You could say that the word mindfulness, if it was understood correctly, would be the combination of these two skills: to wake up and take a look, to remember to keep looking. And so, with that investigation, we can now decide whether what's happening in the mind right now is wholesome or not. This is the place where we have a choice. If we see that the thoughts are wholesome, then we can do something about it. So the question is, well, how do we know what's wholesome and what's not wholesome? The answer to that is, like Sati, it's a skill to be developed. So that you begin very quickly to know what's wholesome and what's not wholesome. But in the beginning, we can at least start with three possibilities. One is that it's downright unwholesome. That we know. Doesn't take much to realize that if we're having thoughts of harming someone, that's unwholesome. So thoughts of harm to ourselves, thoughts of harms to another, thoughts of getting even, thoughts of revenge, thoughts of remorse, because remorse is kind of a revenge, except that it's pointed inward. So there is also the kind of thought that is downright wholesome. We know without a doubt that thoughts like everything is okay, everything is all right, no worries, no problems, no place to go, and nothing to do, those kind of thoughts in this context are downright wholesome. In other words, we can stop all of the unwholesome thoughts about past and future and other places and come into the present moment and recognize right here, right now, everything is okay. That in fact, right now, everything is okay, which means that everything is in fact safe. It was dangerous when the mind was just having unwholesome thoughts. But now that we've changed it, we're changing it into wholesome thoughts, which also are thoughts of safety, safe, secure, not dangerous. And so this is the third item on the list of Eightfold Noble Path, is to take the effort to make a change, to turn it into the wholesome. If we keep doing that time after time after time, we begin to get successful at it. We begin to develop the skill of Sati, to wake up. We begin to develop the skill of discernment, to figure out, is this wholesome or not? And then we also develop the effort. In the beginning, the effort seems to be quite a lot. that it's important for the students to understand that right to noble effort is the least amount of effort that it takes to actually get the job done. And most students work way too hard in their meditation, and then they get tired, and then they don't at all. And so it's either way too much effort or not enough effort. But somewhere in the middle is just enough effort to get the job done. And what is the job that needs to be done? Remove the unwholesome thoughts, to get rid of the hindrances. That's the only job that we need to do. And when we do that over and over again, we can also begin to congratulate ourselves for having done the correct job. The job that needed to be done, removing the hindrances, has just been done. Congratulations. You can do this. And so this is the fourth item on the Eightfold Noble Path. These four things need to be practiced over and over and over again to change the mind from the unwholesome into the wholesome, and to then change our attitude from the attitude of a loser. Oh, meditation is hard. Oh, there I go again. Oh, poor me, I need help. Into, I've got this. I can do this. I can have success. I can change my mind. Okay, so these four things then are the Eightfold Noble Path with some additional features, and that is that when we do these four things, a fifth thing happens ordinarily by itself, and that is that the mind becomes unified. It's sort of like there's a difference between a pile of dishes and a pile of dirty dishes. Once we clean the dishes, now they're just dishes, not dirty. Okay, so the same thing is going to be with the mind, that when we clean the mind, now we're going to have a bright and shining mind that is capable of seeing even more, able to see better, able to see more clearly. Clairvoyance would be the word for it. Why? Because it's not obstructed by hindrances, wanting, desire, all of that kind of stuff. And we can actually see things just as they really are. So it becomes a skill. So someplace in the middle are all of those thoughts that we, in the beginning, we're not sure were wholesome or not. If we keep practicing with discernment, we'll recognize, yeah, those thoughts are also unwholesome. We can do without those. All right, so that leads us back then to the original question that you had. Well, how do we actually develop the skill of Sati? How do we develop this mindfulness? All right. Well, let's look at it in the fact that there's three aspects of it that need to be developed. The first aspect of it is, how often does it happen? That we, in fact, we want to develop it to the point to where it happens often. The next one, which we've just discussed about getting out of bed, is it's got to be strong enough. That, in fact, we wake up into the present moment hundreds of times in the day, but we don't do it strong enough to really recognize that. That we kind of wake up and then doze off again, and wake up and doze back off again. We don't wake up enough to actually get up. All right. Now, that getting up quality also has the quality of the Samasankappa, that step 4, or our attitude. When we have the attitude of a loser, then the effort is hard because we think that it's going to be hard. But when we develop the attitude of a winner, now the same amount of effort is much easier. So the effort also is a skill to be developed. Here's a little example of that. Imagine that mom walks into the kitchen and sees that the garbage needs to be taken out. And it's the family job, or the family knows all about that it's Johnny, the teenage boy, who his job to take the garbage out. And so mom calls Johnny and says, Johnny, you didn't take the trash out. Go do it now. And Johnny comes out of his Mad magazine or his funny books or his TV or his cell phone reluctantly and goes to the kitchen and fumes and fusses and gets the grass and takes it out. Okay, first story. Second story, next day perhaps, Johnny walks into the kitchen by himself and sees all that garbage that needs to be taken out. And he has it with the thought, Mom will like it if I take all of this stuff out. And so he picks it all up and takes it out to the road. Same amount of garbage as last time, down to the exact same ounce. Which one of them is more work for Johnny? That he had to be told to do what to taking it out, or was it his idea to take it out? Which takes more work? Which one has more effort to it?
Certainly the one where he's, fussing and fighting and arguing the whole time and doing it begrudgingly or.
Right, look how much effort that takes. And so our attitude affects our effort strongly. And as we develop the right attitude, doing the work is a lot easier to do. Okay, so that still leaves us then, well, how do we develop the skill of sati? And the answer to that is we're going to be doing it over and over and over and over and over again. We're going to remember quite often so that when we need to remember, we will. That's really the point about the sati is that many times throughout the life we don't need it. We can go on automatic pilot, but sometimes we need to wake up. We need to be here now. We need to handle the situation correctly. An example would be getting stopped on the road by a cop. That's the time we really need to wake up. And yet most people handle roadside stops very poorly. They're full of fear, full of trepidation, full of anger. Why did this cop stop me and all of that? And the cops really have to deal with all of that bad behavior that they're getting out on the road. You can imagine that they kind of get used to it in the sense of expecting you to act that way. But if you've got sati, then you can wake up and you can recognize that this cop's trying to do a job. He might be doing it badly or ignorantly, but that he's doing what he thinks is the correct thing to do. So we can congratulate him at least for that. Something like, hi, officer, good to see you tonight. I've heard so much about the police force in this neighborhood, and I can trust that you guys really are on top of your game. And I'm a good citizen. I'm here to help. What can I do to help you, officer? Now, that kind of attitude is going to get you a whole lot further than, why did you stop me? Okay. You can see that both these two sessions about the garbage being taken out and being stopped by the cop both require sati. They both require us to wake up and to be here now so that we can handle things, because if we don't, it can get dangerous. So yes, that's why we want to have sati, is to wake up so that we can make sure that things aren't dangerous. So how are we going to develop that? Well, the Buddha's got a position right there in the Anapanasati Sutta that one of the things that will help us develop sati is mindfulness of breathing. That in fact, we talked about two kinds of sati already. One was how often does it happen, and then how strong it is. The next one will be a kind of a different kind of sati in the sense of how fast is it? Can you keep coming back to sati? Can you keep coming back and keep coming back? And so we develop that with mindfulness of breathing, because if we're developing it with a long breath, then each long breath we have to remember that this is going to be a long breath. Sati. Okay? And so it states in the English language translation, is mindfully he breathes in long. And mindfully, he breathes out long. That means he remembers that this is going to be a long, deep out breath. And remember that this is going to be a long, deep in breath. And so every breath you take gives you an opportunity to practice sati twice. Once on the in breath, that this is a long in breath, and once on the out breath, this is a long out breath. And then we can bring even more into it, and that is remember that we're practicing correctly and congratulate ourselves for that. We can wake up and check out what the mind is doing and seeing that, wow, there's a wholesome thought already there. And so we can congratulate ourselves for that. We begin to remember to be nourishing to ourselves. We remember to not be critical. Because we, in fact, were raised to be critical of ourselves. When we're very tender little kids, 2 years old, the child is kind of okay. He's nourished. He's too young. He gets away with everything, kind of thing. But by the time we're 5 or 6, now we're on the critical list in the sense of do your homework, do your ABCs, do your 1, 2, 3s, pick up your clothes, pick up your room, do what you're told to do, hold mommy's hand. And off we go into being critical. And so this is the mindset that we develop in school, that we have to be discerning and critical about everything. Everything is broken and needs to be fixed. That's what our whole society is built upon. That in fact, the Western society will call Thailand primitive and backward in many ways. But the reality is that the people in that society are okay with it. That's good. And yet the people who are in the advanced society, they're all proud of being so advanced. And yet they're all so unhappy and miserable because they want their civilization to be even more advanced. That they never come to a state of this is good enough. And so we're going to be practicing that quality of remembering on the in breath that this is a long in breath and everything is okay. This is good enough. And then on the out breath, we remember that this is a long out breath and that everything is okay. No problems, no worries. And so this is how we develop sati, so that it comes often, it comes strong, and it comes fast. And with that kind of sati, we can avoid most of the dukkha in life.
Yeah, I think just that switch from the critical habit, the mindfulness of being more nourishing, feels like it is, something that I could certainly cultivate more.
Mm-hmm. Right. So sati is remembering to cultivate. You can't cultivate if you don't remember to cultivate. And what is cultivation? Examining those unwholesome thoughts and making a change. That's the cultivation. And then being pleased with the cultivation is also part of the cultivation.
Right, celebrate it.
Celebrate. Celebrate that you can avoid danger. You just did. So that's your thing about sati. How often does it happen? How strong is it when it does happen? And is it fast? So that you can begin to use sati to see those subtleties in the mind. So that you begin to watch those thoughts one after another, to kind of be on guard. That in fact we can think of it not necessarily as a prison guard, but that's a good enough guard to think about. Why do prisons have guards? Is because without them things would get really dangerous. The kids will start harming each other, so we need to guard them. The thoughts that you have will be dangerous. We need to guard those thoughts, but we can't guard them if we don't remember to guard them. And so that's where the Sati comes in, is to wake up and look at what you're doing. Become the Bugs Bunny of your own mind. What's up, Doc?
Yeah, it seems as if there's just the identification aspect of like, this is a long breath, or this is like knowing things as they're happening.
Mm-hmm. Remembering to look is the knowing. Looking, not deciding, and then conceptualizing, which is what we commonly do. We look and we decide, and then we rely upon old data for new events. And so we're going to begin to remember to take a new, fresh look. Times have changed. They're not the same. Everything is different than it was 2 minutes ago. So let's not rely upon the past. Let's rely upon what's happening within the time frame of ever how many seconds that it takes to count a now. Some people's nows are a second long. Some people's nows are 2 or 3 minutes long if they can really get into a pity party. But as we progress, our nows get really short, down to a tenth of a second, fifth of a second, like that. We keep paying attention. The Sati's fast. We're watching, and we keep watching. But that's a skill that should be developed. And we can develop that skill with mindfulness of breathing. That's the mindfulness part, is to keep on it, keep watching. And when the mind wanders away from the breath, be gentle on yourself. Be kind to yourself. Be nourishing to yourself and say, aha, I caught that the mind had wandered away from the breath. Never mind. Let's happily trot right back to the breath and take another deep in-breath, long, deep in-breath, a happy one. And so we remember to nourish ourselves. Remember to throw out the unwholesome thoughts. So this is where Sati is. It's got several components in. So to remember to wake up, to remember to watch the breath, to remember to remove unwholesome thoughts, and then to remember to congratulate ourselves for having a job well done.
Like a self-reinforcing feedback loop.
Yes, absolutely. That in fact I took a course in system simulation when I was in college. Okay, and that one of the qualities that I learned an awful lot about airplanes doing this system simulation project in computer science. Why? Because an airplane has so many feedback loops. In the old days, you'd have a thing for a device or whatever in the cockpit to throw the left flap down on the tail wing, right? Guess what? Sometimes you throw that thing and the left flap does not go down on the back tail wing. We need a feedback to make sure to come up a little light says, okay, the flap is down. Because if the pilot thinks that that left flap is down and it's not down, then he's not able to control the airplane. So this is the whole quality of the feedback loop that we're talking about. Yes, very, very important. that we look at what's going on. We just don't make decisions and expect, because we made the decision, that everything is going correctly. We have to make an investigation. And in fact, that's what the whole quality of the feedback loop is continuing to look, did that left flap go down? And so this is part of the practice of making sure that that the mind did we actually change that unwholesome thought, because they'll try to crawl right back in, and if they do, aha, I saw you again, you pesky little thought.
Yeah. I see you, Mara. Yeah.
I see you. And so we develop sati for these things, and we want to develop so that it happens often, so that it happens strong enough to assist us in our right effort. If the sati is strong, the effort is easy. If the sati is weak, the effort's sometimes too much.
Yeah, I see where it's too much sometimes. I think after, like, if I practice sitting for a long period of time, I'll often, get tired when I sit.
Mm-hmm.
Probably because my effort is too intense or too much.
Mm-hmm. Well, sitting for long periods of time comes out of a tradition that is different than the world that we live in. Um, and so I would not recommend that you practice for long periods of time. But let us talk about a baseline of an hour's a day practice. It would be much better in the beginning to break that into, let us say, 6 10-minute sessions, or maybe 3 20-minute sessions. That in fact, we even might want to go for 12 5-minute sessions. Half the day, 12 hours a day, 5 minutes out will give you a full hour, except that the rest of the 55 minutes may be a better 55 minutes because we spent 5 minutes getting the mind straightened out, getting it cleaned out, getting it vibrantly alive, full of life. And we want to practice when the mind is its sharpest. And yet, when people think about an hour's practice of meditation, they'll spend 10 or 15 minutes just kind of getting settled in. And then the mind begins to get tired. They wind up not getting a full hour's practice in that hour. Then, in fact, 45 minutes in, for the next 15 minutes, we're waiting for the bell to ring. I wish it'd ring, I wish it'd ring, and now we're not practicing at all. The mind is tired, etc., like that. So, for this reason, we need to practice sati often, not for long periods of time, but eventually, in those gaps, sati will start to pop up. That we'll begin to remember throughout the day. And there's several techniques that we can use. But right now, we want to set aside a time a day. Let us say start with 6 times. Well, in the bed in the morning, that's one. Getting in bed at night before we go to sleep, that's two. That's easy right there. There's 20 minutes of meditation. And then if we take public transportation, that's another time to practice. After a meal is a good time to practice. And so we start putting it in during the day on a regular basis because we want to develop that sati, to be able to wake up, to be here now. There are actually huge numbers of games that help people to wake up. Playing catch, you have to be there for it. The Thai people, by the way, have never played baseball. The Japanese did, but the Thais have never played baseball, and it's part of their cultural situation to not throw things at other people. Because of that, the Thai people can't catch. And so my wife can be standing 3, 4 feet from me, and I can toss her the keys, and she'll miss it every time. She doesn't know how to catch. Right? If you think about that, we were trained to learn how to catch. We had to be mindful. We had to wake up, compute the trajectory of that ball, and then being able to move our hand to make a change so that the ball will land in the hand. Okay, so these little sports kind of things actually help Sati. So playing games with people that help reaction time. Reaction time and Sati are built right in together. In fact, I could say in a way that reaction time is Sati. And that you can actually test your reaction time on the internet. You can Google reaction time and come up with ways of testing and uh, exploring and actually developing your reaction time. Okay. But if you're not watching the screen, if you forget to watch the screen, then when the screen turns from red to green, you won't click the mouse. That's normally how they do it because you're not watching. And so your reaction time is really slow. But if you're there for it, watching the screen, and when it turns from red to green, you hit that mouse. Your reaction time is good. So that's basically then the whole practice of meditation. Testing our reaction time is exactly a kind of anapanasati practice. And we can practice and get even faster. Our reaction times can go up to, they say it like this: reaction time takes at least two mind moments. The first mind moment is to actually react or to see or to take in that something has changed. And then the second mind moment is to make the response. Okay, so it's reaction time means that there's a two-step process to see and then to act. So the scientists and neurologists and several meditation people and all of that have kind of got it down to that a mind moment is about 1/10 of a second, which means then that our reaction time should be about 200 milliseconds, and that can be timed. All right. Now, people who have never done this before and have never practiced meditation, their reaction time is often about 300 milliseconds, sometimes 350 if they're slow. But that, if they keep practicing, they can get it up to maybe 250. All right. And then I've heard that actually being able to get your reaction time down to 200 milliseconds is the equivalent of a black belt. Someone who's really, really experienced at being able to have fast reaction times. And then they say if you can get it down to 180, that's world class. That's like Olympic champion. Down to 180. That's about as fast as we can expect the mind to have a reaction. So this will help you to test how fast is your sati. In other words, if that thought comes up that's an unwholesome thought, can we catch it right then and throw that down within, can we react to that unwholesome thought within that or in that 200 milliseconds? Because if we don't, we've got dukkha. It's going to repeat itself. How long does it go before we finally wake up and say, that's it, stop? How long does it take us to click that mental mouse to make that change? I'm really glad, by the way, Zach, that you're asking me about sati as just an entire topic by itself, so that we can explore this stuff.
Yeah, I thought it would be a good one for sure, and it certainly is turning out. And I really.
All right. Go ahead.
No, I was just just expressing gratitude, saying thank you.
Okay. Excellent. Well, I think that we've got a pretty good handle on what Sati is all about. So now that you know, you can go use that knowledge to actually increase the frequency, increase the power, and increase the speed of your Sati so that you can be right on top of it.
Will do. Thanks, Dhammarato.
Excellent. All right. Well, Zach, I hope to see you on our YouTube. It's been quite a long, not YouTube, but on Skype. We've got some Skype groups for Sangha building that I'm trying to get the students to become friends with each other, some Dhamma friends. And so it's been such a long time that I've seen you that new things have happened. So go and explore Skype for both the Sangha UK and the Sangha US.
The Sangha US, they meet on Fridays, is it?
Friday evening is when we do a video, but the students communicate with each other and make friends with each other and
cool. I'll check out the groups.
All of that.
I'm part of it.
Excellent. Thank you, Zach. Well, we'll see you later, I hope. Don't be so long next time in calling.
Talk soon.
Okay.